Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us. Tonight, we have a very special panel of experts to talk about how BIOJUVE is the key to a healthy skin biome. Before we start, I would like to give a special thank you to Crown Aesthetics for sponsoring and sharing this educational webinar with you tonight. If you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A section and they will be addressed after. I'm very excited to introduce Dr. Thomas Hitchcock and Dr. Doris J. Dr. Hitchcock serves as a CSO and oversees scientific affairs at Crown Laboratories. He also currently serves as an adjunct faculty member of the East Tennessee State University Department of Biomedical Science. He began working in the field of dermatology at emerging companies such as Ulthera Inc. and consulted for companies such as BI and Bayer. Dr. Hitchcock has more than 20 years of research experience across cardiology, oncology, gene therapy, plastic, facial plastic surgery, dermatology, and aesthetics medicine. He earned his PhD in genetics from Clemson University and completed postdoctoral training at Duke University and Yale University in biomedical engineering, vascular biology, and therapeutics. Moreover, we have another great panelist tonight, Dr. Doris J. Dr. Day is a clinical associate professor of dermatology at the New York University Langone Medical Center, where she was presented with the Dedication and Excellence in the Teaching of Dermatology Award, a highly respected and sought-after personality in the area of cosmetic dermatology. Dr. Day has been featured in the media and serves on medical advisory boards and training panels where she teaches other physicians the art of soft tissue fillers, laser treatments, and facial rejuvenation techniques. Dr. Day has published 3 books and writes a blog about her life and career. She earned her medical degree from State University of New York Downstate Medical Center College of Medicine and completed her dermatology residency at New York Presbyterian Hospital, Cornell University College of Medicine. Now, let's start. Welcome.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Both Dr. Day and I are very excited to speak to you on the subject of BIOJUVE, but not just because it's a great product line, but also because it is a product line designed on a philosophy that we've been exploring for the better part of a decade. As you can see here, Dr. Day and I are actually releasing our first collaborative book together. Doris is a seasoned author, having written some really great books on acne as well as general cosmesis. And now she has joined me in rebooting the biome, which will be released in February, which it is now February. So any day now, we know by the end of the month, our publisher has committed. So we're in the very tail end of getting everything sorted, and we're extremely excited. If you want to visit rebootingthebiome.com, you can put your information in there if you're super eager and want to make sure that you're given notice when the book is released. But we're going to, of course, put out press releases and such. So, but up to you if you want to go there to explore. However, today we're not here to talk about our book. We're here to talk about something that is related, which is the BIOJUVE brand of products. And this slide says history in the making simply because we feel very strongly that it is the first of its kind type of technology, in the sense that we don't, although we have skincare elements in it, we don't even want to call it skincare because we feel it is bigger, it is past skincare, it is skin biome care. And please, let's discuss that on the next slide, but please keep in mind that we believe that not only should it be thought of differently, but it should be used differently. And we'll discuss that as the talk goes on. So really quickly, we're not going to get into the basics about the skin microbiome or the skin biome in general, but if you'd like more information on that from a more elementary perspective, please scan this QR code and it'll take you to a mini docu-series called Beauty and the Bacteria in which we actually go through the world of the skin microbiome from soup to nuts. And so it goes from as elementary as just microbiology in general, taxonomy, how you name things, all the way to what we're talking about today, why C. acnes is actually, in our opinion, the most important microbe that is on the skin, and gives you all the reasons why and where we get that information. Some of that information comes from our research. I've been doing research on the skin biome since 2013 in a company that I founded called Zycro Therapeutics, and then we sold that company to Crown Laboratories in 2019, and I was retained as their CSO, or their Chief Science Officer, and I still am. And we developed from the ground up the Crown Microbiome Institute. We actually built a whole wing of our facility in Johnson City, Tennessee, where we have top-tier scientists that are actively researching the skin biome and how to capture the best elements of it and produce products from that in order to create a better skin biome and actually do skin biome care, which we can talk about now, which is, what is the dilemma? Why are we calling it skin biome care? Well, it's because modern days sanitation, modern days habits of cleanliness, and the ways in which we produce our own hygiene habits have allowed us some great things. We have a lot of technologies that have made us look younger, have made us healthier, things like antibiotics, benzoyl peroxide. All these things are great tools in our tool belt when it comes to taking care of our skin, retinoids, vitamin C's. The problem, though, is that the way that we formulate, the way that we preserve things, then also there's pollutants and pathogens and age and makeup and all these things combined. While they're all good in their own right, what has happened is they've compounded a lot of these, a lot of the things that are used to make them, and it actually took us 2 steps forward and then 1 step back. And so what happens is we can actually start to accelerate the visible signs of aging, not because of these products per se, but because of the way that it affects our skin biome. And so our skin biome is made up of not just our skin, but it's also the microbes that live on the skin. And on top of that, it's the environment that houses all of them together. And this is very important because this is why we call it skin biome care, not skin care. Because if you only care for the skin and not the microbes, you actually miss a big part of the picture. And the way to think of it is that you could have the best skincare ingredients in the world. You can have the best retinoids, the best vitamin C's, the best antioxidants that really help the skin. But you are going to always have, no matter how clean you think you are, billions of microbes of all varieties that are in your skin, literally inside your skin, not just on top or not saran wrap covered. They actually live inside your skin. They're always going to live there. And the way that they affect your skin and you personally is going to be contingent on how you affect them. And part of how you affect them is the environment that you put them in. What are the topicals that you're placing on your face? How are you washing your skin? What are you? What kind of environment are you putting them in? So, are you going out in the sun a lot? Are you putting on chemicals on your skin that are actually antimicrobial? What kind of pH is your skin at because of your topicals? And it even comes down to what you eat. So it's all inclusive. How we treat the microbes on our body, in our body, is how they're going to treat us in return. And so that's the philosophy behind skin biome care, is that we are all ecosystems, and that we have to think of ourselves as ecosystems in the way that we care for everything, including our skin. And so the potential behind a technology that can allow you to actually care for the whole skin biome is what we are talking about today. And that is the key to the Zycro technology, which is within the BIOJUVE brand of products. So BIOJUVE uses these Zycros, which are a one-of-a-kind, clinically proven living microbe technology, and it harnesses the power of a live strain of C. acnes defendans. Now, really, some people may immediately understand what that all means, but to those of you who may get thrown off by the C. acnes part, one of the things that we are now finding out is that whether a bacteria or any given microorganism is beneficial or pathogenic cannot be attributed to an entire species many times. There are times that it can, but many times it cannot, especially with skin commensals. C. acnes is a species that makes up the majority of every single human's microflora on their skin. But not every single human has skin issues. So that means that there is a very strain-specific ability of these microbes to either be pathogenic or protective in nature. And so the C. acnes defendens is the actual subspecies. And so you could think of it like a wolf and a beagle. A wolf and a beagle are the same species. They're Canis lupus. But Canis lupus familiaris is the dog. Canis lupus lupus is the wolf. They're very different from each other. C. acnes defendens has been shown to be protective in nature or beneficial in nature, where C. acnes is the ones that are more associated with disease state. And so we've taken this knowledge to design a microbe that optimizes skin health for a wide range of anti-aging concerns and more. And so how does it do that? Well, this Zycrobe technology, the Zycrobes themselves are C. acnes defendens, and they're modified, so there's actually a genetic switch in there that allows you to control their division, because we want them to do two things. First, we want to make sure that they're concentrating more on metabolizing and secreting what we're terming bioessentials. That's just a simplistic way of bringing into that's just an easier way of saying all of the metabolites that they're secreting. And we have a lot of them that we know about, some of them that we don't yet know how to characterize. But what we do know is what happens when in clinic, and that's what Dr. Day is going to share with us, what they produce or what they can do for us. And we know that these are things such as proteins, polypeptides, and antioxidants. We know certain of them, things like ROXP, are antioxidants that are only found in this species of bacteria and that are super protective, just as powerful as things like vitamin C and vitamin E. However, they're produced all the time, 24 hours a day. And that's where the real benefit comes in, is that, like we talked about, there's some great skincare ingredients out there. There's some great antioxidants. There's some great anti-aging type of chemicals. And I know that word anti-aging is a bit of a misnomer, but there's some great products out there that have all these ingredients. The problem is a lot of the best ingredients are labile, meaning they fall apart. They become effective for a spike, and then they have a drop in their effectiveness. Things like vitamin C, that's pretty much the gold standard when it comes to antioxidants in skincare. So what happens is our Zycrobes can actually live on the skin. They go into the follicles, which is where they prefer to live, and they secrete these things like ROXP 24 hours a day in low levels. And we actually have a study that Dr. Doris J is going to discuss, where if you go to that publication, she's going to discuss the clinicals today, but there's also a large part in that study where we did a lot of research on the bench to show gene regulation in the skin and such. And it shows that when you produce these bioessentials 24 hours a day, you can actually get a nice upregulation of a lot of genes that things like retinoids and vitamin C's and such actually produce as well. But you get a nice, steady, continual upregulation of these things rather than these dosage spikes. And that's the number one important thing that we want to drive home with this technology. All right, and so then the next part is what Doris is going to bring to us. Dr. Day is going to go through the clinical study, and that's where this has been clinically proven. And in order to create these significant improvements, and Doris will go through all the different types of improvements that we're seeing in the clinical study. And some of the most impactful things that we observed, which is a little bit incredible until you actually see the research, is that we started to notice these types of results in as little as 1 week. It's something that once you use it, you'll see what we mean. And from here, I'll let Doris go ahead and take the clinical study for you guys.
Hi, it's so great to be here, Thomas. It's so exciting to hear you talk. I never get tired of hearing just all the things you have to say about the products and the process of you getting there. So Thomas and I have known each other for, I don't know, close to 15 years, maybe even longer than that now. And we met way before Zycrobe was a thing. But because I knew Thomas and had so much respect for him for so many years, as he was building this concept before it was even a product, I got to hear step by step how it came to life. And when you have a PhD who has the background that Thomas has, or Dr. Hitchcock, I don't know, I'm pretty informal. So you call me Doris, I'll call you Thomas. There's a lot behind this that is structurally and biologically and even genetically so important and so powerful, and there's a lot to go into. So I'll tell you briefly about the studies, and then we can have a conversation. So when you look at, this is the main study. This was published in November 2022, and this study was done using this particular zycrobe, and it's called BIOJUVE. That's the name. It was kind of exciting when that name came to life because we were wondering what it was going to end up being called. And it's designed to deliver and support the engraftment of this live zycrobe, of those live cells, onto the subject's skin. So it was an 8-week pivotal study, 121 subjects. It's no small number of a study. 32 subjects were evaluated in clinic for efficacy at baseline, week 1, week 4, and week 8. And the reason why there were 33, but one just dropped off, there was nothing special about it, but they were all in the same state. So those 32 were then evaluated in clinic. Next. So this is the design. They were instructed not to use any facial products other than a basic facial cleanser and water for cleansing, lipstick, eyeliner, mascara for 3 days prior to the start of the study. Then they filled out questionnaires at weeks 1, 4, and 8, and they had daily diaries. In the morning, they used the BIOJUVE conditioning cleanse, the support complex, the hydrating barrier cream for normal to dry, normal to oily or normal to dry skin, and then the microbe safe sunscreen when they needed. In the evening, they would use that every day, really. And then in the evening, they use the conditioning cleanse, and then the Living Biome Essential Serum, the non-retinol version, plus the activating mist. That's a 2-step process in the evening. So what we saw, this is what I thought was really interesting. When you look at the key result of hydration, patients could start out, or the study recipients could start out as either oily or dry, but they all ended up properly hydrated. So what happens is that when your skin biome is naturally balanced, your skin can hydrate itself. So this wasn't a hydrator. It wasn't intended to necessarily hydrate, but it was really interesting to see the improvement in hydration in the skin to normal hydration. Nobody ended up overhydrated or underhydrated. They all ended up normally hydrated for their skin, which is exactly where your skin needs to be. Next. Then when you look at redness, I don't know that this was even really fully expected. I think this came as a little bit of a surprise that even in as little as a week, you could see an improvement in the erythema. And actually, this kind of makes sense because when you have decreased inflammation, you do expect to see decreased erythema. And I think this is a sign that there was decreased inflammation in the skin. And then the sebum production percentage. So the important point here is that it wasn't that there was necessarily decreased serum production, and nor do you really want that, because that sebum is food for those microbes and when they ingest the sebum, what happens is the breakdown products are actually really good for the skin. It's things like propionic acid and shorter chain fatty acids, essential fatty acids, all of those things that have good benefits for the skin. So you want that sebum. So this is actually reading a decreased signal of sebum, but not necessarily decreased production. And you can see that went down, which meant that the little microbes in the skin were super happy getting the food that they needed and converting that into benefits for the skin. So that would be the postbiotic part of it that the microbes then create. When you look at the full 8-week full face BIOJUVE clinical study, we could see that there was continuous improvement over that full 8 weeks in things like skin texture, the improvement in clarity, the evenness of the skin tone, discrete pigment changes, mottle pigmentation, fine wrinkling. So they looked at a whole broad range of skin changes over this time. And what they saw was even things like under eye dark circles, laxity, all of these elements improved, even the skin turgor and under eye puffiness, overall photo damage. So these are important elements that we want to see, but the proof is always in the pudding. When you see the before and afters, you can see in this woman, this is not a laser. We're not looking for benefits of a facelift. But I think surprisingly, we see not just an improvement in the texture and the mattifying of her skin, but look at the fine lines. Look at her right chin. You can see that there's a very coarse line on the right chin that's now all but disappeared. And I think when I think about skin like this, some of those lines become like scars. And when you improve the skin quality, or maybe there's microinflammation at the base of those wrinkles, because the skin at the bottom of a wrinkle is very different than the skin at the top of a wrinkle, and that repetitive motion into it does create some maybe microinflammation. And by reducing that, we have improvement of the scars in ways we didn't expect. So when we do this and think about if we added lasers and other treatments, we might get even better results in patients that otherwise I don't think we could see results like this. And the next slide, you can see improvement in texture. This is someone who has extreme sun damage in her skin. And I mean, I think of her needing a full-on aggressive CO2 resurfacing, although I would do a fractional one, maybe a few times, or even a deep peel. But you can see a marked improvement. And if you look up close, that textural improvement in the skin is pretty significant. So this is from using a product for 8 weeks. Seeing that's an amazing textural improvement in the skin from baseline. When we see scars, again, at scars, the collagen is bound down, and there's probably some microinflammation at the base. There's also some erythema in scars that are clouded by the discoloration. And you can see a marked improvement. And I like seeing the changes from week 1 to week 8, because it's not just this incredible before and after, but you can see the progress of improvement from week 1 from baseline to week 8 in the scars. And here's an improvement in erythema from continuous use of the product. And again, you can see that gradual improvement. It's not overnight, they're completely better, but this is, I think, actually showing that it is a benefit of the product, and you don't expect to see an improvement of the erythema being fully gone, but you do want to see it slowly wean down over that period of time. So seeing that transition is really helpful in my view. And here you can see the pigmentation improvement. This is somebody who has both actinic damage and possibly even a little bit of melasma, although this looks more to me like actinic damage. And you can see an improvement in the overall skin tone, skin texture, and even the pores to me look less visible. And I think that's a nice change. And look at her nose. The nose, even that smoothness of the nose is pretty remarkable. And I think that's one of my most exciting places to see the difference from this product is the nose, because nobody likes those sebaceous filaments, and those do get better with this. So now there was a 2-arm study that was used to evaluate the safety and efficacy of BIOJUVE after a microneedling treatment compared to a user-naive group after microneedling of acne scars. And this is an ongoing study, so the final data should be available soon. So in this one, there were 2 arms. There were 36 subjects, ages 22 to 60, who had acne scars, and they qualified for skin pen precision treatment. All of them had 4 skin pen treatments, 3 weeks apart, and then they'll follow up at 2 months and at 6 months post-treatment. They were randomly assigned to 2 groups. So one group received the BIOJUVE skin regimen, and they started using it 14 days before their first skin pen. And the other one used a commercially available, just super bland skincare moisturizer and sheer sunscreen to use 14 days before. So the BIOJUVE regimen is the same as for the previous study, where they used the products to cleanse, the support complex, the hydrating barrier, and the sunscreen in the morning. And the evening, they used the conditioning cleanse plus the Living Biome Essential Serum without the retinol and the activating mist in the evening. And then the other arm just used the bland, essentially Walmart brand that had essentially no other actives in it. So you can see here, this is 2 months post the 4 skin pen procedures, a pretty solid improvement look at the acne scar improvement is impressive on its own, but look at his overall skin quality, even away from the acne scars. The pores are minimized, the skin quality is better. And of course, the acne scars, the erythema, the redness in them is also better. So these are significant changes to see, and it's very encouraging. We do skin pen all the time, but to have a product to use around it that also adds value is what sets us apart. So our patients come back, even though they can get this in other places and probably for less, but we add this value by offering treatments along with the skin pen. When you create a wound in the skin, you're creating an opportunity to deliver a product that can affect the way the skin responds to the treatment that you do in very powerful ways. And that's what sets us apart from other places as people who study this, right? So all of us here are special in that way. So then this one, the study is almost done. So now it's 6 months coming out, and we're waiting to see the final results. So I'm excited to see what we have coming up next. Thank you.
Thanks, Doris. So Doris will come back on at the end. I'm quickly going to go through the products of the line and discuss them, and then Doris and I will be available at the end for any questions. And so really quickly, I do want to discuss especially what Doris was saying is the PM regimen, which is essentially using the gentle cleanser. And I do want to talk about that in a second too, because it's more important than you would think. And then also the Living Biome Essentials Duo. And so this is actually one SKU, one product that has two components in it. And what it is the tall bottle here is what contains the living Zycrobe technology. And so unlike yogurt, for instance, yogurt actually has live metabolizing microbes that are in the yogurt. That's why you have to refrigerate it, because they're actually functioning when they're not cold. They actually are producing, they're living, metabolizing. And so with ours, we actually have them in a dormant state. They're in a state that are encapsulated in a way that which you need this activating mist to basically hydrate them, to reanimate them. And then once they're reanimated, they actually have the genetic switch in there. And so both the conditioning cleanser as well as the activating mist have a sugar called arabinose in there. And the genetic switch that we put into the Zycrobes actually needs that arabinose to allow them to multiply. And so why is that important? Well, it's important simply because when they multiply is when they can actually engraft down into the follicles. And so it's important to get some amount of multiplication or proliferation of these microbes, because that way they can start to actually engraft down into your own skin biome. And engraftment is extremely important to get the benefit from the microbes. So initially, when you condition your skin, when you wash your face, that's why using the right cleanser is important, because a lot of cleansers use way too many surfactants, which are antimicrobial. And so if you put a live microbe onto a surfactant, it actually will kill it. And so while we said before it's impossible to kill all your microbes, no matter how clean you think you are, the fact is you're trying to actually cause engraftment, which is tricky because it takes a while and a bit to get pure engraftment of microbes. Now, since we saw results in as little as a week using the whole philosophy, the whole regimen, we know that it can be done quickly if you take it seriously and treat your microbiome and your skin biome appropriately. And part of that is actually conditioning the skin to receive the microbes with the conditioning cleanser. And then activating mist actually gives it an extra arabinose as well as rehydrates it. And so the way that we use it is we pump the live serum into the palm of our hands. You only need one pump for your face. And if you want a little more for your neck and décolleté, maybe pump and a half to 2 pumps. But then you spray it with the BIOJUVE activating mist and you mix it in your hand like this. And what you can feel is you can feel those little crystals. Those are the encapsulated Zycrobes. And once those have dissolved, you know it's ready for application. It's very quick, but you can feel it. You can feel them actually dissolving, because that means that they basically have dissolved away the encapsulation. Now they're rehydrated and you can apply them to the face. Now, could you do it without the activating mist? Yes, the moisture from the air and from your skin would rehydrate them eventually, but it would take a lot longer. And the point is, when you put it on at nighttime, you have 8 hours of unencumbered, what I call microbioforming, where it's basically getting engrafted and it's causing all of the great things that we saw in the clinical to happen. If you have to spend a few hours rehydrating them from the ambient moisture, it just takes away from the effect. That's why we decided to include both of those in one product, because we felt the activating mist is just super essential to just kickstarting that process when you go to bed. Now, making sure you use this correctly, because you do not need a lot. And once you get that into the skin, you'll feel after maybe 10 minutes, it'll sink right into the skin. That means that the microbes are actually starting the engraftment process. It actually feels really nice once it's sunk in. Here again is a conditioning cleanser. We've already discussed that. Again, not only does it have the arabinose to activate the genetic switch, but it's also a very low surfactant. It does not foam. So if you're expecting foam, this will not. It's a creamy cleanser that basically all you do is massage it into the skin and rinse off, and it doesn't strip. It actually provides amino acids and other humectants in order to actually keep moisture in, help keep the barrier there, keep the microbes happy, because remember, it's not just the microbes that are important, it's the environment. Because if you put a microbe that does great things for your body in an environment that it can't live in, what's the point? So this product is also very important because, as we discussed, you need to make sure you condition the skin in order for the microbes, which is the key to the technology, to actually live and thrive. So it's, again, not just the microbe that's important, it's the environment of the skin that's important as well. Because if the environment is inhospitable to the microbe, it can't do its job. It's similar to anything that's in the wrong environment, right? When you feel like you're in the wrong work environment, you maybe can't be as productive. My example is Superman. When he's not with the yellow sun, he doesn't have all his superpowers. And that's actually what our mascot, not Superman, but we used to have a mascot called Captain Microbe that was a superhero microbe. He's actually on my shelf, but I'm not going to pull him down. And he was our mascot for that reason, because the microbes, they are superheroes, microbes, but they require the right environment, the right conditions. And so starting off with a cleanser such as this that doesn't have high surfactants that are antimicrobial, it doesn't have antimicrobials. And so that the days of 99.9% killing microbes with your soaps and stuff, those need to be gone, other than for instance, healthcare workers or surgeons, or in the kitchen when you're trying to wash your utensils. But when it comes to washing your face and your body, it's not only not necessary, it's actually not healthy to have that much antimicrobial activity. Now, if you read the literature, we're not going to get into it today, but there's a lot of nuance to that. So if you ever take an advanced course on this, you'll probably hear either Dr. Day or myself speak to antimicrobial peptides and such, because there's a whole world of that in your skin. Your microbes are all doing that themselves. We don't need our soaps to do it for us. So this is a very important part of the regimen that I don't want you to sideswipe and say, I already like my soaps. And again, also don't think that when it foams, it means I'm clean. You don't need to have surfactants to actually cleanse the skin properly. Now, one of the other things that's not on this is that the BIOJUVE brand management team actually produces these microfiber cloths that take off makeup really well. So we actually toyed with doing a makeup remover, but we felt it was just too many steps and it was too messy. And they came up with these microfiber cloths that I believe are available. Just ask your sales rep. And you can buy one for every day. When you're done, just toss them in the washer. They're reusable, and they actually work super well. Now, I don't wear a lot of makeup, so I speak as a fool, but I have enough girlfriends and women in my family that will have told me that they've used it and it's been very successful, even on the heavy eye makeup. So make sure you look for that. Then there's a biome support complex. And so this one is one of the things that you look for, and it's termed a postbiotic. And they call that what a ferment would be. Basically, it's all those things that Doris spoke about when it eats the oils of the skin and it produces all these good things, the antioxidants, the proteins, the other things that help to get those benefits that you see in the clinicals. And those are the things that are found in this ferment or this postbiotic, which we are calling bioessentials. And so what this does is a couple of things. It allows you to, when you wake up in the morning, when you wash your face with conditioning cleanser and you have those residual microbes, it basically places back onto the skin a lot of that environment that you just washed off with all of those good things that they were producing at night without any, oiliness that you might have woken up with, etc. But also there's a film forming agent that's in here that's not proprietary to us, but it's something that is used typically in things like sunscreens to help distribute the physical zinc oxide and such and keep it there. but we use it here in a special way in order to actually produce a barrier to protect the microbes from things like makeup that may have too much preservative, or other sunscreens. Like, for instance, our sunscreen has zinc oxide, which is not super friendly to microbes, but because you have this barrier of either this or this next product, which is the hydrating barrier cream, this also has the film forming agent. And so this is actually going to, if you use one of these products, will actually help you to not only gain moisture and benefit and condition the skin still, but also to kind of seal in those microbes in a breathable way. Now, will it keep 100% of your microbes, 100% alive? Probably not, depends on what else you put on the skin. But what it will do is give them a much better chance of making it through the day. And then again, at night, you're going to have 8 hours of unencumbered microbioforming. And so these two products, the Biome Support Complex, as well as a hydrating barrier cream, great for when you need extra moisturization and conditioning of the skin, but also great to protect your microbes so they can do their work 24 hours a day instead of 8 hours a day. So it's a third of your life versus 100% of your life. That's your choice. And so then you finish up with a physical sunscreen here, 50 plus SPF. Again, it's physical only. And so, of course, we have limitations as to which physical sunscreens we have access to. And unfortunately, they're not super microbiome friendly or microbe friendly. And so what we do is we actually have those film formers that actually protect it. And you can use actually this or your favorite sunscreen. Regardless, you're going to have that 24-hour protection as long as you have one of those film formers. And so Dr. Day already went through the routines. It's exactly what was seen in the clinical studies. As you can see, the morning routine is for products at most, depending on if you want to use all of the system or if you just want to use the Biome Support or just the hydrating barrier cream. But as at most, you wash, you apply the moisturizing agent or serum, and then you apply your sunscreen. It's not a lot. And then at night, it's really, you can call it 3 steps, but it's really 2 in a way, because you're washing the face and then you're putting the living biome, which is you mix 2 products together to place it on your face. So very simple regimen. It's meant to be that way. It's unlikely that we're going to expand much past this at any time, because really these are the ingredients that you just need: the right microbes with the right food source in the right environment. And it's going to help you to curate your biome into a place where you can get nice homeostasis. And so that is the regimen. They all work together to enhance the performance of the microbes. But remember, you need to make sure, even if you were to use other products other than the adjunct products here, because there probably are other lines where they have really great formulations that could complement the microbes. The fact is, though, I just don't know what they are. And unfortunately, unless they have research to show that they can, we need to make sure that we give those microbes the best environment that they can have, to where they thrive and can do all their work. Otherwise, what's the use? So again, it's the right microbe with the right food sources and then the right environment. And that's going to allow us to reclaim our skin biomes. And so these are some of the taglines that the marketing team at Crown Laboratories have come up with. I'm going to go ahead and call on Danny Diamond, who is the brand manager for the Zycro products, who was one of the people that helped to come up with these taglines. My favorite one is not on here. I don't know why they insist on not putting my favorite one on the slides, but I'll let her read through these and then hopefully give you the one that I like the most.
Yeah, well, thank you, Dr. Hitchcock. So this is BIOJUVE. We say this is skin science like never experienced before. We call it Skin Science 2.0. It was created by pioneering skin scientists, as you heard from Dr. Hitchcock this evening, as well as reviewed by top dermatologists as Dr. Day herself. This is the leading edge of natural biological innovation. And our favorite tagline that we always say for a final punchline is, we call it next level, call it groundbreaking, just don't call it skincare.
Yeah, it's not a punchline. This ain't a joke.
No. It's powerful nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm just
well, thank you, Dr. Hitchcock and Dr. Day. I'd like to bring you back onto the stage, and we'll wrap it up here with a panel discussion and cover a few questions. So thank you both for the great presentation and overview of the BIOJUVE clinical study and the products themselves. So the first one, Dr. Day, as a practicing dermatologist of 24 years, can you walk us through your history with the microbiome, and in particular, particular, the skin microbiome?
It's so funny when you start your practice, you want it to be like longer because then you sound more seasoned and more like a pro.
Right.
And then as it like gets to 20 years and then more, you're like, maybe just say 20 years. I don't know. It's like, and it's like people are like, yeah, we'll cap it at something. But yeah. So as I mentioned in my presentation, I've known Thomas for a very long time. I think we met when he was working with Alt Therapy before it was acquired by MERS. And we worked on a lot of projects and research projects there and kind of got to know each other better because he'd come to my office, we'd go through the research ideas, and then he was here, so we'd hang out and talk about other things. And then we started talking about his interest in the skin biome and some other projects he was working on the side at that time. And I got to really pay attention to the skin biome. And the gut biome has been big for so long, but understanding that there was a skin biome was kind of interesting. And at that time, most of what I was using on the skin to treat my acne patients, like everybody came in and oral antibiotics were the thing to do, a lot of topical antibiotics. So it was really all about annihilating all the bacteria and the microorganisms of the skin. And then we noticed that when we stopped using those things, the patients got worse again, or things tended to rebound. So, I mean, retinol is a big part of what we do. But as I started to understand that if we treated both our gut biome well and our skin biome well, our skin aged better. And that also signals internally. So it doesn't only affect your skin, but it affects your overall health as well. So this isn't something that Thomas just came up with and the next day had a product. This was, 10 years. How many years, Thomas, of really working through iterations of it to find the right zycrobes and learn that there are strains, not just that it's just one thing that works. And one of the things I did along the way was I was on a board with someone who's very big in philanthropy, and we were working on trying to cure acne. This was something he'd seen his grandchildren and so many people go through, and it was a passion project of his. So he brought a whole bunch of us dermatologists together, and I was able to introduce the skin biome idea and introduce him to Thomas. And I think he even did some of the early funding of Thomas's work. So this is something I've thought about for a long time. I've learned so much from both writing the book with Thomas and also just watching him build the product and the line. And I think it's just really exciting.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And that really leads into my next question nicely. So you've been intimately involved in the science and the making behind BIOJUVE for the last several years, which we did say it's nearly a decade in the making. Was there anything specific that you learned from the study or the zycrobe technology itself that surprised you?
I was surprised at the wrinkle improvement, at the anti-aging benefits. And I sort of talked about what I thought was behind it, but I think that's something where when I look at even like the hair study, something completely unrelated, where we gave somebody a JAK inhibitor for arthritis and all their hair grew back, we didn't expect that. But then when you see that, then you start thinking, okay, what is the pathway that affects? So now that bringing it back to the skin and zycrobes, when you see the improvement in something you didn't expect, now we go back and we may understand more, not only about scarring, skin aging, but even the process of skin cancer, what happens along the way. So I think the questions that we have to ask are really broad. What do these microbes do for our skin overall health and well-being beyond acne? How are they having these benefits? And when you look at people who use this over a long period of time, what changes do we see in their skin? How do those microbes? And I think we're going to learn so much about these microbes and others, and how to feed them, how to support them, how to nurture them, what preservatives we should use in the skin, what we should stop using in the skin. There's so much we're going to learn. We're still in the infancy of what we can do, but this is a very big step.
Absolutely. Well, how does this change for what you now know and change the way you will care for the skin biome moving forward?
Well, this is interesting because there's a lot of products I like, and I have a skincare line. So there's a lot of products out there that I have my patients use. This is one component of it. It certainly hasn't replaced everything I'm doing. It's a component of what I do. And I don't think it's realistic to expect any one person to do only one thing. So what I found is that for patients who have been using a lot of things, are not happy with their skincare, it's an easy switch. And what I've been doing is have them use only this at night, because I don't, unless I know that other products don't have preservatives, or I speak with Thomas and I go, are these preservatives friendly for the biome and for the microbes that are in BIOJUVE? And unless I know for sure, I'm careful about what I use. And then, so I have them use mostly only this at night, and then I'll use different things in the morning. Because in the daytime, you can do other things, and that's how I've been using it. Ones who want the set do the whole BIOJUVE set, but ones who like what they have, I get to sort of incorporate that. That's how I do with all my patients when I'm adjusting their products. And then when they come back at 6 to 8 weeks, we assess, and then we decide how to go forward. And I find that to be helpful. I've been using it for my patients who are taking oral isotretinoin or Accutane, and I find that helps normalize the dryness in their skin, because the BIOJUVE products actually have the food as well, besides the microbes. So we don't need the sebum in the skin. Somebody with super dry skin will still do well with this, because it already comes sort of pre-fed, and then it's able to normalize the hydration in your skin. And that's how I've been doing it. So I've been slowly introducing it to patients, having the conversation. And then the other part of it is I've been thinking about other products I'm using or things that I want to create, and saying, are these biome friendly? Is this preservative at a good concentration? So it's a lot of studying and trying to understand what products play well with our natural innate skin biome, and how am I going to adjust this?
Yeah, absolutely. And Thomas, I'll let you speak too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just want to comment, because Doris brings up so many good pearls there, but I wanted to expand on one of the things that people might, Doris has only had access for her patients for a few months at this point, but she was the first. I want everybody to know that she was the first person in the world to actually buy for her clinic and actually sell to her patients and do the BIOJUVE. So she's one of the pioneers and actually how to implement it into her practice and what the best methods are and the best ways are. And she's 100% correct that we're trying to change a philosophy of how we care for the skin biome, and that we're an ecosystem. It's not going to happen overnight. A lot of people are going to, be a little find it a little dubious that we now are doing exactly the opposite of what we were doing 10 years ago, where 10 years ago was all about sanitizing your skin. And now we're saying, don't over exfoliate, don't over sanitize. We're basically saying, and one of the things that Doris has said to me over the years, which I thought was a brilliant saying of hers, it turned out to be Maya Angelou, but still nonetheless is very wise, was that when we know better, we can then do better. And that's one of the things that because for me, it's more of like, why the heck were we doing such stupid things to ourselves? But it's not that we're stupid, it's that we're doing the best we can with the tools that we have at the time. And we're probably going to learn 10 years from now, even more things that we could do better. And so this is a point where we're learning about, there are hundreds, in physician dispense, there are hundreds of products out there to choose from. And it is so hard for physicians even to know, because they don't have all the levels of things that are in those products, unless you have your own line like Dr. Day has, or she can see the levels. Because it's like a recipe. Just because you have an ingredient doesn't mean that it's at the right level. It could be too much, it could be not enough. The things that are not good, like preservative systems, we know even if we see the best preservative system, it's hard to know, because even in our products, the preservative system, if you raise it 0.5%, it kills the microbes. So it's the right ingredients at the right amount that is super important. And that's with any recipe, with your gut as well as your skin, is that it's not just the ingredient that's important. It's the formulation, it's the recipe that's also important, because it's chemistry.
And you know what, in a recipe, Thomas, I think that's such a great point about the recipe and the ingredients. And it's even the order in which the ingredients are added into the recipe. So 100%. I could have the same recipe and put things in the wrong order, and I can tell you it won't look
And
or
it
feel.
won't turn out good.
Yeah.
And I'm not a good cook, which is weird because I can get into a lab and do things pretty well. But as far as cooking, I can't claim to be a good chef. But what I will tell you is that you can walk into any grocery store and a good marketer, a savvy marketer will know to put this candy has vitamin C.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden kids are like, it's healthy, you know?
Yeah, the pirate's booty for the longest time had a good source of vitamin D written on it.
Yeah.
And it got me eating it and I love it. But now they took that off and I'm like, darn it.
Yeah, because, psychologically, a good marketer knows how to use psychology to get people to use products. And sometimes the products are fine. They're just using it to get an edge. Other times they're not so fine and not so healthy for us, but they know that people will use them anyway if they think they're healthy. And so it's a trick that is, on the consumer and now the physician dispense lines and such to do a little bit of homework to know and to ask the questions, because really you're your own best advocate. And so when it comes to this, we, like Doris was saying, there are other products out there that she feels comfortable matching with it because she knows what's gone into this. Mm-hmm. She knows what her own products have. Not everybody has that luxury. Yeah. And so I would say, be mindful with what you do put together, because that'll be very, very critical into making sure. And also, certain times you may want to adopt the whole philosophy, other times you may not. So for instance, if you're going to get like we were talking about with microneedling and seeing the great results that they had, if you're trying to really get a treatment, you want to get the most out of that treatment, and you're having dysbiosis, the idea might be, I need to get my biome under control while I'm getting these treatments. And then once I got my skin where I want it, then maybe I can start to curate a little bit differently.
Absolutely. So, I think it is for some people to have one line and just follow step by step. That's important. And around treatments, it is important. And some people are just married to what they have, and we just have to learn to incorporate it because they're going to use what they want to use, or some people are product junkies. They go online, they shop, they fall for a lot of marketing, and they'll try things. So my thing is to at least protect them at night with the living microbes. And then in the daytime, it's that I know these products are microbe friendly and they're tested to be microbe friendly. So this is a good way to go. And some people are happy to be with that, but some are just like, well, I have my whatever that I love and they want to use those. So we always have to meet the patients where they're at and then help them get to where we need them to go.
Right. And I do want to mention that there are some really hot topic product ingredients out there that can be very antimicrobial, which can be a problem depending on the way it's used. You have to know the way it's being used. So bakuchiol, for instance, became a very hot ingredient because retinols that everybody loves because they can be really anti-aging. The problem is they can also be very irritating. And so bakuchiol was claiming to have, although there's not a lot of studies on bakuchiol, there's a lot of studies on retinols. Bakuchiol was claiming to have a lot of the same benefits with none of the irritation and none of the photo sensitivity. The problem is it's not all retinols are antimicrobial, but bakuchiol is antimicrobial. We actually were thinking of incorporating it at a couple of years back, and we found that it just wiped all the microbes out. And so just keep that in mind. Frankly, if you look at the clinical data, we did not incorporate any retinoids at all. And we saw those results that I think would rival any retinoid. For my opinion is very biased, but what I would say is we do have a retinoid version that incorporates a microbe-friendly retinoid mixture. I actually always recommend when people ask that you start with a non-retinol version because frankly, I don't think you need it. We did that because there are some people that really like their retinoids, and we wanted to make sure that we did cater to those people so they could at least have some retinoid in their product to make them feel like they're not like losing any of the benefit that they've built up over time. So again, that's a choice for both the physician and the patient to make whether they want to do that. My particular recommendation is start without the retinoids, and just so everybody knows, I only use Zycro. So, not that I'm the best looking person in the world, but
you're glowing.
You are glowing.
Well, that brings me into like, what does that patient conversation look like? But you both touched on, the last several years where we are stripping our microbiome and really sanitizing. So now we're kind of going back and saying, wait, that may not necessarily be the right thing to do. Here's what we now know. So Dr. Day, what does that conversation look like with you for your patients? And sense of them understanding that they have a living microbe technology that's going to be applied to their skin.
I think it's a fun conversation. It's kind of exciting, and they're kind of used to it because we talk about the gut biome. So I always start sort of with that, and then say, well, your skin has one as well, and how we treat that matters. And we've learned a lot about it. And I think it really works on understanding that we need to feed our skin right inside and outside, which we've been saying for a long time, but now it's like literally feed our skin right. So I think it makes sense. And it's not a hard conversation. Patients are excited about it. And there's been so many Me Too products out there. So to have something that's not a Me Too product, that's not a variation on what's out there and trying to make something old seem new, but something that, and not adapt something for another organ, like not adding gut probiotics to the skin and saying they're going to do something for the skin, but actually a true skin probiotic. So sometimes I have fun and I said, that C. acnes bacteria that we're trying to fight, well, I'm going to give you more. And so you'll always get their attention with that. And it's a really easy, fun conversation and doesn't take very long.
Danny, I don't know if we're at the end of our time here, but one of the things that I've adopted, a moniker that I've adopted for myself, because I'm often asked, well, how does somebody present me? Because I'm a geneticist by training, but I've been a skin biologist for many years now. And I can't say I'm a dermatologist because even though I study skin, I don't practice, medicine. And so I've actually adopted the moniker of a holobiologist. And I think I'm coining that term. And I think I would like to be the first one, but I think Doris should be considered the second holobiologist.
Oh, yay. Thank you. I'll take second on that one.
Anyway. So
well,
I
yes.
Think
that does bring us to the end of our evening tonight. So thank you both again for the presentation. And this does conclude our webinar. We hope that you all found it very informative and helpful. We do encourage you to reach out to your Crown Aesthetics representatives to discuss additional questions you may have around the BIOJUVE products and the opportunity to become one of the first providers in the nation to offer these products to your patients. And join us in the way we are changing the way we care for our skin. So thank you again for your participation. And on behalf of the entire Crown Aesthetics team, have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.